Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the C Squared podcast. We are back after a prolonged wait because Fabiano, you were playing the candidates. We were both in anticipation of the candidates as well as during the candidates in Toronto. We did some training. We had a huge event, and we're going to cover all of that in today's episode. But first of all, I'm just happy and excited to be back to the channel. I hope you guys didn't miss us too much. Fabi, tell us a bit about, let's start right there. I mean, sum it up for us, sum up your current state after the candidates.
Yeah, well, of course, it's good to be back. And it has been a long break, obviously, because not only of the candidates and playing the tournament, but also because the preparation beforehand was quite consuming.
Yes.
And yeah, we had some training beforehand, actually quite a bit, and also some tournaments beforehand. So it was definitely a very busy period from, let's say, February until the end of the candidates. So it was a very, very busy period. And probably comes to no surprise to anyone that my mood, at least the last few days, has been of immense disappointment,
Yeah.
and it was kind of a heartbreaking finish for me, and for us as well. You were also there as my trainer,
Yeah,
as
I
one of
think
my trainers.
for the whole team, it was obviously heartbreaking. It was a difficult tournament altogether, but these are the type of tournaments that we're, playing for. And for you as a professional at the top level, these are the type of opportunities that you're always going to hopefully have. And some of them you're going to convert, some of them not. And the ones that you will not are obviously going to be heartbreaking. But yeah, keep going.
Well, yeah, it's of course the way it happened is the heartbreaking part because there's like a million scenarios in which I don't really get chances going into the last round. Where I'm not even in contention going into the last round. I'm sure we'll get into the details more in a bit. And there's also a million scenarios where I don't get chances in the last game against Jan. Although my mood after I beat Prague was one of like in the situation I probably will get chances. I don't know how many chances against Nepo, but it would be strange because the situation is where he has to win and I have to win, and we don't really care so much about a draw. So it would be weird if it's just like a typical Grandmaster draw where no chances occur for either side.
Mm-hmm.
Now that could also mean that I lose the game or I get losing chances against Jan. But since I have the white pieces, I would be in a great situation, which is of course well, kind of we're getting in the weeds a bit and we'll discuss the details.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of my emotions, uh, the difficulty is in the fact that I actually got not only a chance, but I got basically like the ball is practically in the net. I mean, there's no defender there. It's it's an open goal, it's and that's where the disappointment comes in because if I had gotten no chances or if I had drawn the previous game against Prague and Gukesh beats Ali Reza as he did and some bad luck there, Gukesh wins against Ali Reza, you could call it bad luck or you could call it whatever you want. But then there's, what can you say? It's kind of you tried and you didn't get chances. But I did also get some luck against Prague. So my emotions at that time were like, oh, this is amazing. Things are going my way all of a sudden. I beat Prague, I beat Vidit. These things are not at all um, not only
Trivial.
unlikely, but you can
Yes.
say that it's not that they're a given, but they're even like an unlikely thing to happen. And I also beat Ali Reza, and a lot of things went my way. Like beating Vidit in itself, of course, he was maybe not in the best state. He was disappointment. He had his own tragedy happen against Jan in the previous round. I got some guys at good moments,
Right.
and and then I started to really believe in my chances, and also I think my play was maybe not like perfect, but I was definitely doing the right things in terms of putting pressure and searching for chances. So once things start to go your way and you build that confidence and then you get this like golden opportunity, this is of course the moment when you don't want to waste it. And that's where the way it happened was heartbreaking. And the fact that I even got chances later in the game against Jan, I'm sure we'll go into the details of that game in a bit, but I had like multiple chances. Of course, once once I had like the basically like the easy wins and those I'd missed, then of course it's tough. Then, it's like, well, you can say it's a 50-50, right? Okay, I had like the easy wins, like rook d2, everyone pointed out, and bishop c2 instead of bishop h7, and to some extent as well, king a2 or king a1, kind of easy decision, which I rushed and missed.
Mhm.
But then even at the very last moment. But of course, then when you're getting down to seconds and you have to see some tactics and it's a 6.5 hour game and so on and so forth, then of course you can kind of explain away the mistakes or you can understand them. But overall, yeah, it was a tragic game. In some ways for him, but I don't think that was the game that Jan can look back to as like the disappointment because uh, he objectively didn't really get chances in that game, right? I mean, he had chances in a theoretical sense, but he had to win with black on demand. Okay, pretty tall order. And maybe for Jan, like he can look back on some previous games. But
It's
for
crazy
Jan, it
because
was
at that
basically
point, going into the last round, the only time he was in a must-win situation in his whole career at the candidates, I think 3 appearances, but also it was the only round in which he was trailing at the candidates, which was absolutely insane. To understand the consistency that he's had over 3 candidates is absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, difficult situation for him. Very difficult situation, especially since he had the black pieces and also given, let's say, a bit his repertoire, right? He's very much a Petrov player against e4, very much of a Nimzo, very tight, maybe sometimes Tarash with black against d4. So, given all of those details, it was a very difficult situation for him. Very peculiar situation for everybody. I don't think it ever happened in the candidates to have 3 players in a must-win situation, all 3 of them in
well,
contention, trailing the leader.
okay, I'll sort of push back on this a little bit. Also, I think that Emil said this. He said it's the first time in chess history that 4 players going into the last round have a chance, a theoretical chance of winning
Mm,
the tournament,
mm,
which is actually untrue.
right.
And for like Emil, who's a very big chess history guy, he knows a lot of chess history. I understand this is like what he missed was a recent chess curiosity, which was the 2018 candidates, where I obviously had a chance because I won,
Mm-hmm.
and Mamdiarov had a chance, and Karyakin had a chance. They were trailing me by half a point. But also, Ding had a chance. He was trailing me by a point. And people kind of forget that Ding had a chance there. He had to have everything go his way. Basically, he had to beat Karyakin. I had to lose, so he bridges the 1 point gap. Now he's ahead of Karyakin, who goes to -2, who goes to +1. Suddenly, Ding is +2, I'm +2. And then, very importantly, he also needed Mamedyarov to beat Kramnik, which would put Mamedyarov at +2 as well. And the tiebreaker there was not a playoff system,
Mm,
but it was first of all most wins. So if Mamedyarov doesn't, um, so first of all it's head to head and then most wins. So if Mamedyarov doesn't beat Kramnik, then I drew both my games against Ding, and so that's a wash. But then I had more wins than Ding because I also had 1 loss, and he would have had 2 wins and 12 draws, and I would have had 2 losses, 4 wins, and 10 and 8 draws.
mm-hmm.
And but then the weird thing is that if Mamedyarov suddenly wins, then we have head to head back. So I have 2 draws against Ding, I have 2 draws against Shakhriyar, but Ding has beaten Shakhriyar, which means that in this kind of mini circuit, mini tournament, he actually has the best result, and he would be the candidate's winner,
Mm.
which would have mattered a lot in 2018, but eventually Ding actually became world champion via his own unusual way. So this is just a funny curiosity to look back on, but it does mean that the situation going into the last round was not unique. 4 players having a theoretical chance has happened 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's just an
I
interesting little,
I
not
think it
really
was
real.
just peculiar because all of the players that had a chance were playing against each other,
Hmm.
which put, for example, especially in you and Jan's position, you're playing against each other and you were both in a must-win situation. So it's a very peculiar situation, especially I would say for the player playing with the black pieces. But yeah, difficult to say. Let's say who was in a trickier situation. I guess Hikaru knew exactly what he needs to do. He knew
No,
exactly what
definitely,
Gukesh
definitely
is
Jan.
probably going to go for. You think so?
Definitely Jan.
Yes.
100%. Jan was in the worst situation because Gukesh basically he's probably going to play. He's going to try to make a draw, and
Right.
then if a playoff happens, he'll take his chances there.
Hmm.
Hikaru needs to win. It's pretty clear. He has white pieces. His opponent needs to draw. It's a standard must win versus must draw
It's
game.
interesting because Hikaru at the dinner he did say that he sort of expected Gukesh and even during the game to maybe play for more, maybe try to win just for the simple fact that a tiebreaks doesn't guarantee anything, especially a tiebreaks against you or a tiebreaks against Jan. Hikaru viewed Gukesh as the underdog against pretty much anybody during tiebreaks.
No, I mean that is definitely a possibility. Like we can only speculate, of course, at this point. You would probably say by the numbers, probably Jan or I would have some sort of edge on Gukesh. I mean, you can put it at whatever numbers you want.
Yeah,
Everyone will debate it. Some will say maybe 60-40, some will say 50-50, some will say 65-35. You can debate this all day long. Um, it would be a two-game rapid match, which in my view puts it kind of at 50-50.
yeah.
And playing for a win with the black pieces against Hikaru, who is very solid and very strong in a classical game. Um, like let's say if Gukesh had gotten good winning chances, then of course he would have tried to take them. But you don't set out right from the start to do this because this is simply a way to lose and to make Hikaru the winner of the tournament, which is also not what Gukesh is looking for.
Yeah,
But you could have seen somewhere during that game because at some point Gukesh was just slightly better. He was a pawn up, not a whole lot for Black, of course,
that's what
but you could
Hikaru
tell
was
that he
saying.
was trying to press this a bit. Yeah, it,
And,
it was
and
clear.
Hikaru was trying to push him into, okay, you get a better position, but the overall position remains complex. And Gukesh was saying, no, 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 we're going towards the end game. I'm going to maybe relinquish my advantage, but keep the position simple.
Yeah, this was a practical choice and makes sense. Like he could have traded queens at some point, which he did, or he could have remained with queens on the board, which was
Hmm.
the objectively perhaps better choice. But definitely understandable to trade queens and then you never lose. While if you keep queens on, okay, things can eventually go out of control, especially in a no increment time trouble situation. As happened, for example, with Gukesh and Ali Reza, right? He was pressing, but then it goes into time trouble and some kind of random stuff happens.
Hmm.
And you never know. Like you can never keep full control. If you trade queens, okay, you keep full control, and then Gukesh just watches my game with anticipation and sees if maybe he plays a tiebreak, which if he plays a tiebreak, it's not a disaster for him. It's not what he wants, of course, in that situation. He would prefer to to win cleanly, and anyone would. But but a tiebreak is still a normal situation. It would be the best chance that a player would have before the tournament. Like if you told any player before the tournament, okay, you get a tiebreak. Like you can just take it now. Everyone would say yes, without exception.
Yeah.
Uh, because like let's say the best chance that someone was given before the tournament was like 30%, right? I don't know. I think that's what some people gave me before the tournament. In a tiebreak, you get 50-50,
Yeah.
or maybe a little bit less than 50-50, but close enough. Like, let's say tiebreak with me and Jan. What are you going to put that at? It's just a pure 50-50, right?
50-50. Yeah. Especially on a
Yeah,
two game match. I mean, 4 game match, you can start arguing one way or the other,
sure.
but 2 game match is such a random amount of games, right? Such a minimal amount of games that
Yeah.
you cannot really put.
It, the only thing you'd say is like, okay, if Nijat plays Hikaru, for example, it's
Okay.
like a 90-10 or 90.
Yes.
But even that's better than Nijat's original chances. Because I think Nijat's original chances were like maybe one, one. Okay, I
Right.
don't want to. I mean, he's a great player and all, and I'm not trying to denigrate him. But his chances were like one in
Less than one.
5,000 or something.
Less than one. Yes. Yes. Less than
Yeah,
1%. I mean, these are by mathematical models that were posted by
sure.
various
Yeah.
publications before the event.